Today we are driving every single Honda. Very excited to take a look at all these today. Every single one of these cars is owned by the same person, and there's a really cool, unique story that goes with it. Let's get started. So we have the owner of this fine collection of Hondas, Brent. Say hello to the camera. He runs the Great Lakes Vintage Honda page. Brent, give us a brief rundown of all these cars. Let's just walk through them.
Okay, well, first off, this is a 1988 CRX Si. It was the first year of the second gen that came out. The car originally came out of California, actually. I remember it popped up for sale probably 6-7 years ago now, and a guy bought it out there, owned it for about 5 months. He actually put it back up for sale. So I kind of watched it for a little while. After about 6-7 weeks, I contacted him like, hey, I'd be interested in that car. Eventually, I was able to bring it from California back here. It's all original paint.
Beautiful.
You'll see it's got just a touch of sun fade from California back here, but hey, currently has 64,000 original miles on it.
Wow.
It's all in OEM stock condition.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, they put CRX on the door cards. I never knew that about these.
Yep.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, this one actually took to Detroit Radwood 2 years ago, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, Radwood would eat this up.
Yeah. A lot of people, you know, obviously owned old Hondas. Mom or dad had an old Honda, so a lot of people like to come up and share stories about their experience with these older cars. And that's kind of one of the fun things about collecting these too. For a lot of folks, these were cars that were bought, driven hard. You know, they're on their third, fourth, fifth, sixth owner, handed down through families. Eventually, kids in high school got them, took them off to college, and they finally rusted away with, you know, 200 and some thousand miles.
Yeah, they lived out their life.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah.
These were very much thought of as disposable cars for a long, long time. And so finding some of these that are still preserved, I try to keep almost every one of them in OEM stock condition, is harder and harder these days.
100%. So this is what, an 88 CRX?
88, yep.
88.
Yep, 88. First year of the, like I said, the second gen. There's a couple differences that they had in 88. It was a little bit lighter than the 89 through 91s.
Okay.
And then eventually they did go with a door-mounted seat belt from 89 to 91, which when you see those cars, this poor door panel just gets destroyed over the years.
From the seatbelt?
From the seatbelt,
yep.
Exactly, because you close the door, it gets caught in there. And
right.
Boom.
Starts marring up the plastic and the vinyl.
You'll see a lot of those where the door card is just eaten away.
So this is the real enthusiast spec. It's the 88. It's the lightest.
It is the lightest, just over 2,000 pounds. So.
I was gonna make a joke, say we don't have a slick top, but just over 2,000 pounds. It's so light.
Exactly. So this one is a 91 Civic Si.
It's an EF hatch.
EF hatchback. Again, all stock OEM condition. This car is a 91. It was the only year they offered this color, which is called Tahitian Green Pearl. And I had been looking for one of these for quite a while. Finally found one in the color that I wanted. They only made them in like white, red, black, and the Tahitian green finally. But like I said, it was only a 91 only color. So I actually got this one out of Texas. This one's had some refinishing, a few panels repainted, hubcaps were refinished. Actually, the interior's all stock, just as it came from the factory.
Oh, the classic Honda beep. Well, they used that for years.
Oh yeah.
That's the one my EP3 made too. It's like 10 years newer than this thing is.
Yep.
Wow.
Again, this is the SI model. It was the sport injected, fuel injected.
Is that what SI stands for?
Hot hatch. Yeah,
sport injected? I never knew that.
Yep.
That's so funny.
That was kind of their nomenclature they used to use back then.
It's like BMW with the I.
Yeah.
Injected,
exactly.
and then they just kept running with it.
Yeah. So this one I love just because it's such a rare color. You rarely ever find them in good shape, and particularly in this particular color.
Yeah, this is really nice. When I imagine the EF hatch, I imagine this color.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just something about this color. It just screams early 90s to me.
Does.
And like, yeah.
It absolutely does. The next one is an 88 Acura Integra. This is what's known as the special edition. They came out with this car in 87. They offered 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
1988, they had 2,500 in white on white with the foam whale tail spoiler.
So this is the foam whale tail?
Yep. And then they had another 2,500 in black and gold.
Okay.
And, you know, like we said before, so many of these cars were literally just driven into the ground that out of 2,500, there may be 50 left in the country that are still actually operating under their own power. So
Operating under
I
their
knew
own power.
a guy that owned this car for about 18 months, and I communicated back and forth with him. And I'm like, hey man, whenever you're ready.
Trying to like wheeze your way in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So with a little bit of persuasion, I was able to bring this car actually up here from Phoenix. So originally California car, spent a few years in Phoenix. So it's rust-free, all original paint, so you'll see little dings and touch-up areas and things like that.
Oh, it looks beautiful considering.
Yeah, but this one actually has 180,000 miles on it. So.
Wow. I can see how the chime evolved.
Yeah.
You can tell this hasn't been parked outside too, because this foam spoiler is still in such nice condition.
Yeah, they all dried out and shrunk up.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that was such a cool thing a lot of 80s cars did, but just did not age well whatsoever.
Yeah, correct. I mean,
Saab
just
was
like
all
the
about that.
Yeah, exactly. All the
Yeah.
Euro brands did that
the
too.
old Porsche 944s that had
Uh-huh.
those. And,
That was the car that came to mind when I saw
yeah,
this.
it screams 80s,
Yeah.
right? This car also came with these side skirts down here, and again they made it white on white. It was the only car that ever came in a monocolor for that first gen Integra, which is, so I looked for a long time to find one of these.
White on white, very
Yeah.
80s.
Very 80s. This is an 88 Honda Accord. I actually found this car, I think last year. I had a 1990 Accord, which is a 4th gen Accord. This is a 3rd gen. Because I was making room for some other stuff, and this car popped up on Facebook, I think it was. A buddy of mine sent it to me. So this is an 88 Accord LXi. It's the highest trim level you could get back in 1988. But what sold me on it was it's a stick shift.
It's blue on blue, 88
Blue on blue.
with a stick shift.
So if you look at the dash, this car has just over 19,000 original miles on it, and it still smells new.
Holy smokes, that does smell new.
Yeah, it does. I bought it from a lady whose uncle bought the car originally. He bought one for himself, which was this car, and one for a woman that he was dating at that time. He was about in his mid-40s at that time. For whatever reason, after about 2 years, they broke up. And he put the car in the garage and really never drove it much after that at all.
It was heartbroken.
He was heartbroken. And the niece, basically, the owner had developed dementia into his 80s.
Yep.
The niece didn't even know this was in the garage. It was covered with tarps and boxes and all kinds of stuff in it. And when they were cleaning out his home and garage, they found this car underneath there.
Wow.
So this was one where I was like, I gotta have that one.
Yeah, this is
It's just too cool.
it's
to-
truly a
to
museum
pass
piece.
up.
Like it's untouched.
Yeah, 100%. And everything works on the car except for the fuel gauge, which I thought it was the float initially, but I think it's actually behind the gauge cluster. And I'm like, I don't want to break into that, so I'm just leaving
Yeah,
it as it
it's
is.
all original. You don't want to break. Yeah,
Exactly.
destroy anything.
Exactly.
As it was, broken and all. For all we know, the fuel gauge broke
Yeah.
when the car was 3 years old. That was the 80s.
This is a 1990 Legend sedan. It was the last year of the first gen Legend.
Wait, so you called it a Legend sedan. Did they call the 2 doors also
Coupe.
sedan?
This is a Legend Coupe.
Oh,
sorry.
Coupe. Okay.
Yeah, they came out with a sedan in 1986. The Coupe was offered in 87 through 90 in the first gen. They made some minor changes that last year. They added color mirrors, changed the taillights a little bit, and really that was about it. This car actually spent most of its time in the Northeast, I think up in New Hampshire area. Eventually made its way to Florida, where a guy I knew was starting to kind of restore it a little bit.
Yeah.
And he knew I'd kind of been looking for one of these, so I actually bought this one about 5-6 years ago and have slowly been kind of bringing it back. So again, I try to keep these, as original as possible. So this car does have some weathered leather to it, but it is the original leather.
Oh, it still looks really good.
Which, from the 90s in Honda products really didn't age all that well. So
I don't think any 90s car did.
yeah, exactly.
It's like the 80s and 90s, they were just made of like plastic glue and
Yes.
dreams.
That's true. That is true. And it was held together for a few years there.
Yeah, it looked great for all of 3 years.
Yep, exactly. This is actually the only automatic car that I do own, and I would love to find a 5-speed, but they're tough to find, and I just loved this color combo. So
Yeah, I love the wood. It's in such nice condition still, which you don't see a lot with 90s cars.
yeah, again, that wood would start to warp, crack over the years, and so
All scratched up, yeah.
yeah, a lot of people. There's a few companies now that are reconditioning the wood stuff from the dash on these.
Yeah.
You can send them off, and there are a few folks that are redoing them, so that's kind of nice to see.
Oh, now we're on to the holy grails of classic Hondas.
So this one, this car is a 2000 Civic Si EM1.
Yep.
That's the chassis code. 76,000 original miles on it. I bought this car, I think about 6 years ago now. Again, you know, before 2020, you know, late, you know, 2000 teens, I would say, you could still find these cars in decent condition around, and they weren't crazy expensive. It was just stuff that I was interested in. And now, obviously, these cars have a lot of this stuff is all skyrocketed.
Yeah, bring a trailer.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Cars and Bids, all the auction websites.
So I bought this car, about 6 years ago, and I've just been slowly bringing it back up to snuff, back to original condition.
Yeah, removing all the stickers the previous owners put on it. And
Actually, this one was owned by an elderly gentleman, believe it or not, out of Florida. Eventually, he moved to the Northeast. I think the car had about 60-some thousand miles at that point when he traded it in. He was in his late 80s.
so that was how this survived.
That's how this one survived and wasn't modified.
He was responsible.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, it's awesome. This car has like a kind of a personal spot in my heart. These were like, I saw these all the time when I was a kid, and it was always just kind of like a cool car. And we're watching YouTube videos, and I was looking to buy my first car, and this is one of the, you know, all the like everyone's top 10 lists. This was like always on them, and you know, it was the car, but could never find one.
Yeah, the
But
one you wanted in high school, the hot Civic.
Yeah, the hot Civic. Now we got an EP3 instead, which was also nice, and it had a hatch, but it wasn't the V16.
Yep. All right, behind you is a 1998 Integra Type R.
We drove this car last year.
Yep.
It was fantastic. Tell us about this Type R.
So this is a 98. The numbers kind of differ on who you ask, but they either made 998 or 1,002 examples for 1998. The car was originally introduced in 1997 for the U.S. market. They made 320 examples for sale that year. They didn't make anything in 99. In 2000, they came back and they made them in black and Phoenix yellow.
So, okay, so the white ones are only the early cars,
Only 97, 98.
and the black and the yellow are only the late cars. I did not know
2000 and
that.
2001. Correct.
Okay.
This car actually originally was owned by a gentleman out in, again, I think New Hampshire, Massachusetts, actually, and was used as a track car for a number of years. So they had track seats, they had a roll bar in the back. You'll see some remnants of that. And eventually it was put back to stock and sold to a gentleman in Texas. He owned it for a couple of years and decided he was done with it, so it actually wound up on Bring a Trailer in May of 2021. And this is the car that, when the auction was completed, the car was wrecked. I don't know the whole story after the fact and how that transpired. The car eventually was repaired. Again, it needed work on the front, work on the rear. Made its way to Florida. Does still have a clean title, even though it was from Florida. I know titles get a little wishy-washy down there sometimes.
Yep.
But I actually had the opportunity to purchase this car last year out of Florida, and I thought that's just too good a story.
Right,
Like, I love a car with a story.
This was the Type R. It has a story, and you wanted a driver's quality example, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it looks fantastic. It drives fantastic. That's really what's important to me. I drive it. I enjoy it. Obviously, it's not a daily driver or anything like that, but I'm not too worried to take it to Whole Foods or wherever. And
Summer daily.
that's right. What is your daily?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because
Right
that
now-
blue one also has low mileage.
Yes. Right now, I drive a BMW wagon because I commute quite a ways.
I saw that out front.
60 miles to work and back. I go there like once or twice a week. But actually, I'm really, really interested in the new Civic hybrid hatch.
Okay, cool.
So that's what I'm looking at.
Nice.
I have a question for you, since you own a BMW.
Yeah.
I have long since said that I think Hondas are the BMW of the Japanese world, and vice versa.
I would agree with that statement.
Yes!
I would agree with that statement. From the double wishbone suspensions that they put in a lot of these cars during that time period, they really, really paid attention to how those cars drove. How they
Exactly.
handled, how they drove. They're a very efficient car company, so you could pack a lot of power in a small engine, still get good gas mileage out of it. BMW maybe not so much, but again,
Well, it's about how it drove. They shared that characteristic,
Yeah.
and then efficiency.
Yes.
Just in different respects.
Yep. Actually, my wagon is kind of a unicorn too. It's a weirdo.
Is it a stick?
No, it's not a stick, but it does have a sport package.
Oh, yep.
Which is the sought after.
Sport package E90 wagon. I love that blue color too.
Yeah. So when that one actually popped up for sale locally, I was like, oh, That's perfect for me.
Yeah, perfect
Carries
daily.
kayaks and stand-up paddleboards, kids, and everything in between.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yep. So anyhow, this is the Integra Type R. Again, it's all stock inside.
Love that cockpit.
I think the seats were actually pretty well preserved because when the gentleman used it for track usage, he had different seats in it, so these didn't get too ripped up.
Yeah, no, they look nice. You're also with the TOFR.
Hey.
I want to see your impressions of this car. I'm very excited.
Very, very excited.
It's one of the only cars I think I've driven that you haven't, because everything else on this planet you've driven before.
Yeah. This was a Integra, I think it was a GS model actually, that a guy down in Florida.
Oh, not even a GSR. It was a GS.
No, the GSR came with a sunroof. So I think this was originally a GS model.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, this guy wanted to make his own Type R, and that's essentially what he did. So he got a roof from an actual Type R, had that welded in. The engine is a JDM 98 B18C motor.
Real quick, what is the difference between the Type R roof and then what's the difference between the engine?
So the engine on the GS, I want to say, was about 140 horsepower. Didn't have VTEC.
Oh, yeah.
If you stepped up to the GSR, that was sort of the luxury sport package. It came with leather, sunroof. Again, it had a VTEC engine, 170 horse. These cars with the Type R bumped it to 195 horsepower, stripped out a few of the weight. I'm trying to remember, they took out some of the sound deadening, no sunroof. For the 97 year, they had a windshield wiper delete. You could do AC and radio delete. So anyhow, he sort of created his own Type R out of Type R parts. So he had a Type R suspension, exhaust, engine, transmission, limited slip in it, had the whole interior done as a Type R, and I thought, man, that's really cool. So I originally bought this car about 5-6 years ago, and in my mind it was kind of a placeholder, something to have some fun with. I did that for a number of years until the white one actually came up for sale. So I put this yellow Integra up for sale, sold it to a gentleman in Indiana. Long story short, he put it back up for sale about 5-6 months later, and I missed it, my kids missed it, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy this car back, and I'm going to do some modifications to this one because I've got the stock 98, and that's what I've been doing with this one.
And I get to have both.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what's cool about this too is because it's not an actual Type R, the cost of having it around is not too high. Yeah. So you can kind of justify having them both, and you get to have the modified experience and the stock experience.
You can drive this car anywhere. I mean, you don't have to worry about it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see these yellow seats, the Recaros. What tint do you have on here too? It looks good.
I don't know. The gentleman that I sold it to put the tint on, so I couldn't tell you like how much it is or anything along those lines.
It's good taste. It looks good on the yellow.
Yep.
Oh yeah, these wheels too, bronze.
So these are Mugen Reps, and we went with a BC Racing suspension, ASR subframe brace, and rear roll bar. This is a 96 NSX. I think it has 96,000 miles on it now. I bought this car in May of 2020. This was sort of the holy grail car for me to eventually get to.
It's the holy grail Honda.
Yeah, for sure. Particularly of the 90s.
Oh yeah.
This car was actually owned by a gentleman in New Jersey for 20 years. He was a engineer, so he maintained the car completely by himself. He kept detailed spreadsheets.
As an engineer, he probably has every detail.
Every part number, everything was detailed. I mean, when he would put gas in the car, he would put it on his spreadsheet.
Holy smokes, one of those cars.
He was that meticulous with this car. Eventually, he passed away. His wife was looking for someone to take over ownership of the car that would appreciate it, keep it just like he had it, and I've been lucky enough to have it since then.
Have you still kept gas records for this car?
No, I have not.
No?
With all these cars, that gets a little out of control.
Yeah.
As far as the NSXs go, 91 through 94, they were introduced in America as a hardtop, the black hardtop. 95, 96, they went with this Targa top, which is what you see here. And then 97 to 2005, they upgraded the engine to a 3.2 liter, added a 6-speed transmission as opposed to the 5-speed.
What year did they go to the...
97.
97. Okay. Was 97. That the facelift with the different headlights?
No, that happened in 2002, I believe.
Okay.
Yep, was with the fixed headlights.
So did all the US cars also get the 6-speed in 97?
They did.
Okay, so I always thought these always had a 5-speed and the 6-speed was the later one, but no, these in 97 they all got the 6-speed.
Yep. Came with a little bit more power, so they bumped it from 270 to 290. and you got the 6-speed.
Most of these, were they 96s or 95s? What was the first model year?
91
Oh, 91.
91
Oh
was
my
the
God, they
first
made this
model year
for so long.
for the NSX.
I'd read somewhere that
I want to say they made about 2,500 that first year, and then after that, much more limited.
it dropped off. Yeah, okay.
But not quite as rare as the Integra Type R.
That was one thing that surprised me when I was doing research on these Hondas was they didn't make a lot of NSXs, but they made like there's enough of them around. Like there's a handful.
Absolutely.
But these, they made like none of these.
Yeah.
Like 3,500 total or something, right?
Yeah.
Or like 4,000.
30, I want to say about 3,750.
Yeah.
3,800.
Super low amount. I mean, it makes sense because the GSR was like what you really should have bought.
Yeah.
If you were trying to go for a car. This was a very purpose-built car. Whereas this was like, I wanted a Ferrari, but I wanted to be reliable and I want to pay the money.
Right.
So there was actually a larger market for this car than there was for the Integra Type R, which I always thought was very interesting.
And a lot of these, the Integra Type Rs, were, stolen for the engine, raced,
Yep.
wrecked, modified terribly. There are not very many remaining, as opposed to NSXs. You can find a lot of low mileage NSXs still because, again, it was a very expensive kind of supercar for the time.
It was something people thought was worth saving, worth keeping
so
nice.
A lot of people kept the mileage low on them, kept them in garages, took good care of them. So you can still find a fair number of those around.
Yeah. I always thought that was an interesting little juxtaposition there because usually you think of this as the holy grail, but then you look at numbers, you're like, wow, all right, these are not around at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we have the new one.
Then we have the new one. This is a 2023 Civic Type R.
You have one of these.
Got one of these. Yeah, this is the 91st car that came off the assembly line.
Oh, we even know the number.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. This is a very low VIN number. I think the badge number is 428, if I remember correctly. As I was expecting, this is probably going to be the last internal combustion engine Type R that I think that Honda is going to make. I assume the next one is going to be a hybrid and or electric. Hard to say.
Yeah, who knows?
Really wanted to get one to keep for years to come.
I mean, last year when I drove Chris's, I thought it was one of the most direct new cars that you can buy. Like there's not a lot of rev hang. It's just such a good product. It's a good package. It drives really well.
It's great that Honda still makes a car like this in 2024 too. With a manual transmission. I know it's turbocharged as opposed to a lot of the NA, VTEC high rev.
You got to give it the times, the power number.
They're really fun cars.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of car and it's very direct, built for the enthusiasts, honestly.
Absolutely. 1987.
Oh, 1987. Okay.
1987.
And they just called it the Toyota pickup, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's
It
just
did not actually have a name back then.
yeah, you didn't have a name for it. Is this 4x4 just like the movie?
This is four-wheel drive extended cab. This car I actually bought out of Oregon, again because anything in the Midwest or anywhere in our region at least rusted away 25 years ago, quite honestly. This truck is 37 years old at this point. If you look underneath at the frame, it's immaculate. So when I bought the truck, it did need paint work and some new decals. There are companies that actually still make reproduction decals for them. And so I envision this truck, if you remember Marty McFly's truck from Back to the Future, all blacked out, KC highlights.
Yup.
That truck supposedly came from a place called Statler Toyota. And in my mind, if Statler Toyota really existed, this is what their truck would look like if you bought a variant just in a different color. And that's sort of what I was going for when I built this truck.
Yeah, this thing's super awesome. Let's take a look at the frame down here. Holy smokes. I mean, that's not even clean just by 80s Toyota standard. That's just clean in general.
There's barely any rust on the.
It's like none.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, this thing's beautiful. Oh, you even got the haha. Look at that.
Oh yeah, there's lots of Easter eggs on this one. So.
Yeah, when I saw that.
License plate frame, the dealer decal back here.
I love this thing. This is so cool. Super excited to see us drive all these Hondas. Stay tuned for the coming weeks. We're going to be putting out one video a week of each of these as we drive them. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Like the video. Also, check out Chris's reviews. He's probably going to do a better job at actually describing these than I will. But take care. We'll see you in the next one.